afternoon. Here is the news update. Ogun State government says it has received the report of the committee it set up to share assets between the state's 20 local governments and the new 37 local council development areas. The 37 LCDs were created out of the 20 local governments. Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs Commissioner Chief Jide Ojukwu, who made this known while speaking to newsmen in his office in Abeokuta, explains that the assets will be shared without any form of rancor. The commissioner says the reports will be immediately implemented by Governor Ibikunle Amosu. Federal, states and local governments have shared revenue totaling 429.17 billion naira from the Federation account as their allocation for the month of February. The gross statutory revenue for February is put at 290.13 billion naira, and that's lower than 324.9 billion naira recorded in January. The shared revenue included statutory distributable revenue put at 258.6 billion naira, the value added tax 69.2 billion naira, foreign exchange gains 40.32 billion naira, excess petroleum profit tax account 60.8 billion naira, and the NNPC refund 6.3 billion naira. From the statutory revenue, the federal government receives 117.58 billion naira, state governments 59.6 billion naira, local governments 45.9 billion naira, while all producing states shared 23.19 billion naira as the 13% derivation. From value added tax, federal government got 9.9 billion naira, the state governments 33.2 billion naira, and local governments 23.2 billion naira. Finance Minister Mrs. Kemi Adeosun has asked the National Assembly to reduce the powers of the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to allow for check and balance. Adeosun blames what she calls the excessive powers of the Apex Bank's governor for the lack of synergy between the monetary policies of the federal government and that of the fiscal policy. She accuses the CBN governor of deciding and acting on financial matters without consulting her, who is constitutionally empowered to supervise financial policies and programs of the federal government. The minister, who made the call while receiving members of the Tactical Committee on Recession of the House of Representatives in her office in Abuja, says but for the National Assembly, the CBN ought to be under the Finance Ministry. Adeosun says the CBN governor amassed what she calls excessive powers during the tenure of Professor Charles Soludo to deal with the crisis in the banking industry. Now on the foreign scene, Germany says it will deport two men born in the country but whose parents are foreign, the first of such case in German history. The men, a 27-year-old Algerian and a 22-year-old Nigerian, were arrested last month on suspicion of planning a terror attack. A gun and flag of the so-called Islamic State were found at their homes during police raids in the central city of Göttingen. The criminal proceedings against them were dropped because police never established whether the suspects had planned to carry out an attack. Police say the two men are dangerous, and Lower Saxony Interior Minister Boris Pistorius said the deportations will take place as soon as possible and certainly before mid-April. He said discussions were already underway with Algeria and Nigeria to facilitate this. Finally, in sports, Nigeria's senior national team, the Super Eagles, had their first training ahead of the international friendly games billed for the Hype Stadium in London. The Super Eagles did not participate in the 2017 Africa Cup of Nations and are using the games with Senegal and Burkina Faso to test their preparedness for the 2018 World Cup qualifier against Cameroon and the 2019 African qualifier against South Africa. Alex Iwobi, Wilfred Ndidi, Ahmed Musa, William Truss Ekong, Shehu Abdullahi, Carl Ikeme all took part in the training, which focused on ball work. Others include Ugenyi Onazi, John Ogu, Moses Simon, Kenneth Omero, Kelechi Iheanacho, Isaac Success, Tyrone Ebuehi, Chidozie Awazim, Noel Joel, and Sarere Bazi. Genoa's men will have their second warm-up on Wednesday morning to fine-tune strategies for the game against the Teranga Lions on Thursday. That was the news update. I am Chienye. Good afternoon.